I wish to revert again to the issue of overcrowding in hospitals across the country, in particular the hospital closest to me, which is UHL in Limerick. And kind of wish to put it in context as well, Taoiseach, because 8.5 years ago, on the 14th of January 2014, you raised the spectre of overcrowding in hospitals, and you said that you've neglected it as a priority in government, and that's why there were record numbers last week. You tried to get away with it, but you got caught. And the then Minister for Health responded to you, Leo Varadkar, saying you wasted money when there were billions sloshing around. He also said that the overcrowding in hospitals went back to your time as Minister for Health, and that he was going to solve it as Minister for Health. Now, at this stage, I suppose we're a lot less concerned with when it started and whose fault it is than when it's going to end and who's going to solve the problem. You've repeatedly said that we're victims, or your government, or the government generally, are victims of their own success because of the rise in life expectancy. And there has been a rise in life expectancy, but not a hugely dramatic one. In 2014, the life expectancy was 80.56 in Ireland. It's now 82.81. Yes, an increase, but not one that would sort of explain overcrowding levels, because in January, in the middle of winter, in January 2014, when you raised this issue, there were 359 people on hospital beds, 34 of which were in Limerick. Today, in the middle of summer, and everybody knows it's going to get a lot worse when we enter into the winter period again. In the middle of summer, there are 390 people on trolleys across the country, 97 of whom are in UHL. Now, Taoiseach, we spend a lot of money on health in Ireland. We did then, we do now. We spent 19 billion on health in 2014. In the midst of an economic crisis, the country was on its knees and the government still found 19 billion to spend on health. We spend more than that now. We spend almost 24 billion on health. By OECD levels, we spend almost as much as any other country in health, but it seems, from my perspective, maybe you'll differ with me, that our outcomes are not as good as other countries. So it begs the question, is money being, because we don't hear of, trolleys are not a constant in every, trolleys are of course in every hospital, but the large numbers on trolleys seems to be a particular Irish problem. Is money, because there is money sloshing around, as Sinn Féin already pointed out, with regard specifically to the National Children's Hospital, is money being wasted? I don't know the answer to that, I'm not, but is it being wasted? Because we've seen a lot of wastage of money in other government areas. Does that carry across to the HSE? Because like RT, there's a new CEO in the HSE who does seem intent on reforming practices and getting value for money.
Tánaiste. I thank the Deputy for raising the issue, and I would say in terms of lifespan, generally the last 20 years, 30 years has seen dramatic improvement in lifespan, and then over the history of the state we've gained 25 years in lifespan. And I actually would say to you that in terms of health outcomes, there's been fairly dramatic improved outcomes on cancer care, survival rates, cardiovascular, in terms of survival from cardiac issues. I mean, heart disease was a huge killer in Ireland, still remains a killer, but less so than it would have heretofore been. Stroke has been dramatically improved. The outcomes in stroke now are much better, and it's all about early intervention. If you look at the whole area of pre-ambulance emergency care, the professionalisation of that has been transformative over 20-odd years. So I think sometimes when we talk about health spending, and it is exponentially growing, we also have to acknowledge that in a lot of areas, there's been a lot of good outcomes because of that investment. I think the focus on the emergency departments and the overcrowding is valid in terms of, are we getting the outputs or the outcomes that we should be getting by now in terms of the investment, both investment in human resources and investment in capacity, physical capacity. I think we have to add the population growth, which I think is a significant factor, which perhaps was probably underprovided for in some respects over a period, because we're gone now from maybe 3.5 million in the 90s to 5.2 million today, and in the last 2 years, our own population has very significantly increased for a variety of reasons. I think that is set to continue in Ireland because historically we're probably under where we should be population-wise. If you go back right to the famine period and go right through. So I think the population growth is a key factor. On University Hospital Limerick, I mean, the trolleys are down 20%, but that's not enough compared to 2019. The outpatient list is down 30%. There's an additional 730 staff, 100 additional beds, 200 more under construction. There's a surgical hub on the way, but we do need reform as well. And I think the 7-day week roster and idea is important in terms of getting better use of the asset that a hospital represents, and out of the equipment and the facilities and so forth, to get better value for money, get more productivity, get more volumes done. But with all the investment, the volume of activity is increasing all of the time as well. Now, that gets lost in all of the figures. To be fair to the health service, sometimes we don't give appreciation or recognition of the fact that the extra spending has meant extra activity, has meant extra operations, extra diagnostics. We have to continue to invest in community and primary care to take the pressure off the acute service, in my view, and make sure that people get the right care at the right time, in the right and most appropriate location.
Deputy McNamara.
Taoiseach, again, I welcome the emphasis on primary care, but unfortunately, yes, there's a great new primary care centre in Ennis, and your Minister for Health, Deputy Donnelly, was down there to open it. I welcome that, but there is a shortage of GPs right across Clare, right across the country. There are difficulties, increasingly difficult, as I highlighted to the Taoiseach, Leo Varadkar. It's difficult to get an appointment to see a GP in Scariff, and that's going to be exacerbated by the new arrivals of persons seeking international protection and persons with temporary protection, because no additional resources are being provided. There are difficulties in Newmarket and Fergus. We had a meeting about it last night. So that all means that I was getting phone calls from constituents during Christmas last year saying, I can't get a GP anywhere, and I've been told not to go to hospital, and I've nowhere to go, and I have a sick child. What do I do? And there was nothing I could say to them. So I suppose what I'm looking for, Taoiseach, is an assurance that this is going to be solved, that we're not going to be in 8 years' time blaming the government of the day or the Minister for Health of the day for not solving the problem. I mean, is it resources? Is it organisation? Is it a waste of resources? Because we can predict rises in population, rises in birth rates, and rises in life expectancy.
Tánaiste.
It's all of the above, Deputy. It will need more resources. If you look at the trajectory of health tech spending, and a lot of that is on human resource, because the human capital in health has increased, the numbers of people working in our health services continue to increase, but more and more services have come on stream with it. It means more investment in capital, in equipment, and in additional capacity in hospitals. It should and has to mean more investment in primary care. And in that respect, there's a significant increase in training places for GPs and in allied health professionals also, as well as medical places in our training colleges. That will be essential, and also the recruitment of internationally qualified primary care practitioners or GPs as well. And there's greater accessibility now to GPs in terms of, from the income threshold perspective, a very dramatic increase in access from a financial point of view, where more and more people will now have access to a GP card. But your point is well made in terms of the need then to increase the number of GPs. But the training places have been significantly increased, and also attracting people from overseas to work in Ireland will be a necessary part of filling the gaps at the moment in terms of the need in primary care.